So I think in the context of funding from federal agencies with SBIR and STTR, they're going to be looking for a couple of different elements in that mix of team members. So they'll be looking for, first and foremost, someone who has the research background, credibility to execute on whatever goals you've laid out within the proposal. Have you had experience doing that before? Can you actually deliver on what you say you're going to do? But what's different about SBIR is obviously the award goes to a small business. And so what that means is you also need to have someone on board who can help show that you have some business credibility, that maybe has gone through the commercialization process before, or at a minimum, bring in advisors who have had that experience. In lieu of having a seasoned CEO on the team, you can achieve some of that by going out and recruiting a good business advisory board. So you have to think about it from both sides, not just solely academic or commercial.
Technology development is absolutely a team sport.
Yeah.
If you insist on holding the reins too tightly around your baby, you'll strangle it. You simply will. It's the sort of thing where the vast array of skill sets required to move something forward are beyond the internal skill set, certainly for myself, and I'm venturing to guess pretty much anywhere in the room. They're just so diverse, and it's on the commercial side, it's on the regulatory side, it's on the intellectual property side, it's certainly on the investment side, and not the least of which the technology side. There are just so many folks that have to be involved, and usually that's a phased approach that if you insist on calling the shots from start to finish, you'll almost certainly die a pretty slow, languishing sort of death. Our grant programs at the Biotech Center, so in our Science and Technology Development Shop, all 4 of the grant programs that are based in that shop require collaborations of some sort. One is it requires an array of users and preferably multidisciplinary research projects. This is an instrumentation grant. Our 2 grants focused on kind of early commercialization efforts require a commercialization advisor in addition to kind of baked into the research project. The other is a grant to a tech transfer office that requires contact with a company that has indicated some interest in licensing the technology, and feedback from them. So there's a partnership right there. And lastly, we have a grant that funds industry academic collaboration. So by title, that's a partnership. This is a team sport.
And I would say with corporations and foundations, 2 quick points. Corporations and foundations don't want you to do things to people, they want you to do things with people. So you're going to have to involve your communities, and they will ask you who your community partners are and what kind of feedback did you get from the community in order to do the project you're doing. So again, to your point, I mean, they don't want you to do this in isolation just to, pad your portfolio or be able to advance your research.
Well, they know their money isn't going to be enough to take you to a successful outcome, that if you're totally dependent upon them, you're not going to get there, and therefore, we as a funder can't check a success story box as we are required to do.
There may be a slightly different way to think about it from a federal perspective too. That during this time when there are great budget restraints, there's a sequester, there are other vehicles to reduce budgets. Federally, I find that more and more of the friends that I have, like at the National Science Foundation, for example, are very interested in collaboratives. And it's not just because the collaborative is useful in pulling together or filling gaps that you may not have as an investigator, as much as it is, now this is from a broader perspective, but it's spreading the wealth out over a broader group of people, and you hear that more and more.
This has been a great discussion. I appreciate you all being here. Unfortunately, not only are we out of time, we've gone over time. So if you have questions that we didn't get to, please stay, because we're going to have some discussions at each of the tables. So please join me in thanking our panelists today for joining us today. Before we move on to the next one, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors, to the Division of Research and Economic Development. Thank you for supporting this program. To the North Carolina Biotechnology Center, Mark Phillips, thank you very much for continuing your strong support of the Idea to Impact Forum. We've got many other offices who are good resources here to help you go through many of these kinds of thought processes. The School of Business has been outstanding, working with us on entrepreneurship and things. The Small Business Technology Development Center, the Entrepreneurial Initiative, many, many more resources are available here on this campus to help you with these things.